Instead of half dead, he fights a crack smoking, how you say it, bro? A crack smoking dungeon dwarf. I don't even know if I can say that. What are we supposed to call it? Supposed to, like, little people? I know we can't say the M word. I don't know if dwarf is offensive, but you know what? I don't give a fuck.
Too Sweet is back. And this time, he's been set up.
Where's the referee? Where's the doctor?
To take a fall. Which lands him 5 more years in hell.
It's the midnight third. Looks like we got ourselves a real pro here.
I quit fighting, sir. Nobody says no to Serengeti.
Leon Isaac Kennedy returns as Too Sweet.
You can't hurt me.
In Jamal Tanaka's Penitentiary 3.
Alright, y'all, so being that there's nothing really new this week to talk about, at least that I want to talk about, I figure I go back and check out an oldie but baddie, and that is Penitentiary 3. So I'll be joined today by my man Rob from Xploitation Reviews. He's going to be on here in a second. But yeah, I had to get this one out the way because I did review the first 2 Penitentiary movies. Penitentiary, well, the first one being very good, low budget, blaxploitation movie, but a solid film, surprisingly solid film. And the second movie was almost a parody of that movie where it was an unnecessary sequel, but it had a charm about it that made it likable, but it was just dumb as hell. It made no fucking sense. You know what I mean? And now we come to the third movie. So the third movie, all 3 of them written and directed by Jamal Fanaka. And I have not seen his other movies. Rob, I know you said that you've seen his other stuff. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure you can critique his work better than I can. But just from these 3 movies, Jamal Fanaka was a weird cat. I mean, rest in peace, he's gone now, man. But that's a weird cat. These are some bizarre films. And the third one being the most bizarre. And on top of that, the cherry on top is that it was made by Canon. Okay, if you know Canon Films, they produce shit like Into the Ninja, Breaking, the Missing in Action movies, Over the Top, okay, and Masters of the Universe, and of course, the infamous Superman 4 Quest for Peace. And mind you, there are some actors from Over the Top in this movie. Bull Hurley being one of them, and the blonde guy with the mullet, the blonde mullet guy, the big dude, he was the first guy to arm wrestle Sly, and he's like the main, he's the enforcer to the main bad guy here, who was also the villain in Disorderlies. So, Penitentiary 3, we find Too Sweet, played once again by the cool, smooth Leon Isaac Kennedy, who at the time I called him a Sugar Ray Leonard ripoff. He's back in the ring again, boxing, even though in each movie he swears he's not boxing anymore. He hates fighting, but he always finds himself in the ring fighting. So he's fighting, and somebody slips him some super drug that hypes him up, and he ends up killing his opponent, or almost beats his opponent to death. And with that happening, guess what? He goes back to the penitentiary. You know, just when he thought he was out, they pull him back in. So he's back at home where he belongs. And he meets a new friend in there, played by no other than, I forgot his real name, but I just know him as Steve from The Last American Virgin, who was a fucking scumbag. But in this movie, he's a likable sidekick. He's the best friend. He's a saxophone player. But you already know when you first see this character, you know something bad's going to happen to him. Because every time Too Sweet meets somebody that he befriends, they end up getting hurt really bad. And surprise, surprise, okay, spoilers, dun, 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 he gets fucked up. He gets brutally fucking foobarred. So yeah, this movie, yeah, I'm gonna get to Rob in a second, but yo, I don't know if the director was intentionally trying to make this somewhat of a comedy, or if he was trying, because the first one was kind of a serious movie. It was about fighting for your manhood. How, you know, in prison, people always want to take your booty. And Too Sweet, even though his name is Too Sweet, he is not the one. Alright, there's a character by the name of Half Dead in the first movie who was a big, strong, burly, you know what I'm saying, menacing dude, tries to take his manhood away. In a very long, drawn-out fight, Too Sweet fights almost to the death and defends himself. And he says, I'm nobody's property, I'm going to fight. That was a good scene. This movie recreates that, but this time, as Rob would say, instead of half dead, he fights a crack smoking, how you say it, bro? A crack smoking dungeon dwarf. I I don't even know if I can say that. What are we supposed to call it? Supposed to, like, little people? I know we can't say the M word. I don't know if dwarf is offensive, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. I guess dwarf. Yeah, a crack smoking dungeon dwarf. In another fight to the death, where he has to fight for his manhood in the most ridiculously like it was a highlight of the movie. Don't get me wrong, but it was just like, dude, what was Jama Fanaka on? You know, anyways, before I get to the rest of my thoughts, I gotta gather my thoughts. Rob, take the floor, man, because, yeah, I'm starting to get a headache here.
Rob here from Xploitation Reviews. Thanks, Rashad, for having me on, and thanks for recommending a movie that I had been meaning to watch for years and just somehow never got around to. I'm a fan of the director's work, Jamal Fanaka, especially his film MMA. I covered that on my channel a while back, and I have seen some of his other ones, and he's pretty good. I heard this one is quite a departure, so let's see. I assume you've let your audience know what this movie and series are about, so I'll keep my comments on the short side. Okay, so here in Penitentiary 3, Leon Kennedy is back to reprise his role as the boxer Too Sweet. Wait a minute, Leon Kennedy, he's my favorite character in the Resident Evil series.
I really don't give a damn.
Fine, Leon, be that way. Okay, so in this third installment, Too Sweet is again back in prison, but don't think this is just a retread of the previous two films. This one does things a little bit different. The warden is a gambler, and he's in debt to an inmate named Serengeti. That inmate is the de facto leader of the prison. He runs things from the comfort of his prison cell, which is decked out with sofas and curtains and a prison bitch in drag. Yeah. That's a little different, but that's not the most different thing about this prison. The most different thing about this prison is it has a dungeon, and in that dungeon there lives a crack-smoking dungeon dwarf. Yeah, this is that kind of movie. And wait a minute, crack-smoking dungeon dwarf? That sounds familiar. That's right, he was in Skyrim. Whew. Okay, sorry. Serious face. Serious face. Here we go. Serious face. Whew. Okay, so, is this a good movie? No. But, is this an entertaining movie? Is this a funny movie? Yes. I mean, I laughed out loud a number of times watching this, and I'm not really the type of person to laugh at, like, bad filmmaking, so when I laughed, it was because it was legitimately funny. True, most of the times I was laughing, it was because of the crack-smoking dungeon dwarf, but that's fine. I'm 90% certain this was supposed to be funny, so that leaves just a 10% possibility that I'm an asshole. I'll take those chances. I mean, come on, look at this scene. How could this not be a comedy? And you know, that also seems familiar.
What are you doing up there?
Staying away from you.
Man, Sam Raimi totally ripped this movie off. Yeah, that's what happened. Okay, but even though there's plenty of goofy fun to be had here, I wouldn't say the movie is perfect. It definitely has some shortcomings, even aside from what the dwarf does down in his cell. Okay, for one, and you know, critic hat on here, this movie is pretty ugly to look at. The version that I watched was on YouTube, and it was in 4:3 aspect ratio, so I think this was a VHS rip, which, you know, that's already pretty bad, but even aside from that, the movie is just way too dark and muddy, and even in the brighter scenes, like in the boxing matches, there's this sort of like smoky, misty haze in it. Yeah, it just looks terrible. I mean, it made me want to watch Rocky again so I could see some well-lit, well-photographed, impactful boxing. We don't get that here in Penitentiary 3. The writing here is pretty bad, especially from a character development standpoint. I mean, for example, you know, my favorite character, that dungeon dwarf, he transitions about halfway through the movie from, a grunting feral savage to a boxing trainer, and no explanation is given whatsoever how this happened. In fact, one of the characters even mentioned that he had never seen anyone change so quickly. So maybe this was just kind of like a joke, like, oh, like first he's like this and then he's like this and we're not going to explain it, ha ha ha, isn't that funny? But if it is a joke, it's not a very well written one. Acting-wise, things are pretty bad here, but for a movie like this, I don't really care about that so much, as long as it's otherwise entertaining. And yeah, this film is otherwise entertaining. Editing, yeah, again, pretty bad, which is unfortunate because you need good editing to make a good sport film, especially a boxing film, so it really made me want to watch a better boxing movie. Overall, yeah, this film is pretty bad, so adjust your expectations. I do think in certain situations, it might be worth watching, if your expectations are in the right place. There's some funny stuff here, there's some outlandish stuff here. Invite your friends over, have a few beers, have a few laughs. It'll be fine. And then, after that, watch Rocky so you can watch a good boxing movie.
This is it.
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
Alright, that's enough out of me. Thanks again, Rashad, for having me on, and thanks again for recommending this crazy movie. I won't soon forget about that crack-smoking dungeon dwarf.
Alright, my man. So, yeah, we both agree that this movie is not good, but damn it, it's a watchable good time, especially if you're drunk, so I guarantee, I recommend some vodka, which I guarantee you will love the movie. I think the drunker you are, the more you will like it. And then let's get to the third act here, because Rob, you touched on this too. You said how the writing was just really terrible, and with a movie like this, you can't expect good writing, but at least try. Like they didn't. Like there's a turn, there's a character turn here that just comes out of nowhere. It makes no sense with the crack smoking dungeon dwarf, as you say. Sounds funny to say that. He goes for being this animal who just growls and snarls, and he's like a little Wolverine. And then out of nowhere, he goes from to yes, I can talk. I can help you win. You need my guidance. I will help you come to victory. And then he keeps saying, guts. Use your guts. Use your guts. It's about guts. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And on top of that, his voice was dubbed, so you can hear the ADR, the dubbed voiceover, compared to everybody else. It was weird as shit. Even during the climactic fight, okay, so he trains Too Sweet like Mickey style in this dungeon, right? So Too Sweet now is ready for the big fight against the big guy from over the top, and a poorly choreographed, laughably bad ending fight, and of course, the dungeon dwarf gets involved and tries to get in there. And of course, the dude slaps him around a little bit. And he's got people holding him back like, no, let me at him. Let me at him. He can't do this to me. I will fight him. I said, what the fuck? I said, yo, yeah. Cocaine's a hell of a drug. I don't know if Jamafanaka was on crack or cocaine, man, but cocaine's a hell of a drug. I mean, with a name like Jamafanaka, I'm assuming he was like a Muslim or whatever, a devout Muslim. But, bro, I don't know. You was on something, bro. You was on some special mushrooms or some shit when you made this movie. A very unnecessary sequel that I believe probably should have stopped at the first movie. But the first movie was such a hit, they had to capitalize off the popularity of that one, and they did too. And even though 2 was a modest hit, but 2 was terrible as well. 2, I say this movie is it makes more sense than 2 because at least this movie has to do with being in jail. In part 2, he doesn't have to go to jail. He chooses to go to prison to fight the same guy that he fought in the first movie. You heard me right. So he's trying to become a professional boxer in the second movie, and he goes through the ranks, and he comes across Big Jesse, who he fought in the first movie, and he defeated in the first movie, and Big Jesse beats him within an inch of his life. So they say, okay, we have a rematch now. Let's do this. He says, okay, only way we can do the rematch is we go to his turf. We go back to the penitentiary. If we can do that, then the fight's on. What the fuck you want to go back to jail and fight for? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. The first one, dope. 2 has a charm about it. And 3 is just very weird, but a very watchable good time. And that's all I can say about it. All right. So if you like crack-smoking dungeon dwarves, okay, if you like watching over-the-top villains with their sidekick that's a man dressed in drag, If you just like over-the-top acting and predictable plots that don't go anywhere. I mean, even the whole thing about them taking the drug, like, what was the whole point of that? Like, it's never really brought up why they do that, why they give them the drug to hype them up, you know, almost like Too Sweet was set up to go back to prison again. If they explained that, I don't know. I think I dozed off a couple of times, but other than that, yeah, this movie's not that good. So with that being said, I'm going to give Penitentiary 3, I'm going to give this shit a D, man. I would give it a D. It's a bad movie, man, but watchable. But, you know, it's very watchable. I just wish I knew what the brother was trying to accomplish. Like, if you watch a Rudy Ray Moore movie, you know what you're getting. You know what Rudy Ray Moore is going for. You know, I don't know what the brother was going for in this movie, okay? And that's it, and that's all. So what do you guys think about the movie? Have you seen it? It's on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description. You can check out the whole movie on YouTube. It's VHS, kind of grainy quality, but still... It's a watchable good time. So with that being said, that's it and that's all. Make sure you subscribe to Xploitation Reviews. Rob, dope dude, does Xploitation Reviews. And yeah, go check him out, man. Tell him I sent you. And that's it. That's all. Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.